Hello and welcome back to jQuery for designers. We've gotten a pretty good start on our navigation menu. We've still got a little bit of a mess here because our unordered list here is overlapping our text below it, but we're going to fix that in this lesson. And I've taken all of our files and moved them into a new folder, so all of the changes we make here will be saved in the Site04 folder. So let's jump into TextMate or whatever text editor we're using, and let's move forward. So again, remember we've created a nav element here with a class of main nav. That nav element contains an unordered list which has our menu items in it, and that unordered list has a class of nav list. And then inside one of our list items here, we have a nested unordered list with a class of Dropdown. So those are the classes we need to be familiar with when we're coding all of this in CSS. So let's jump back to our CSS file. And we've already created some of our styles here. And I want to move on now to the main list items inside our nav list. So we've created a nav list class rule here. Now I'm going to skip a couple lines and create a rule for nav list. Then we'll have the greater than sign and li. The greater than sign here will make sure that it's only going to be the direct descendants of the nav list class. So in other words, it's just going to be the main list items here, not the list items in the sub menu or in the drop down menu. So for these list items, I want to give them a margin of 0 because there are some default margins applied to list items. So I just want to clear out those margins. I want to float them to the left because right now by default these list items are stacked on top of each other. If we float them to the left, then they'll be stacked, or they'll be aligned horizontally next to each other, and that will take care of that. So then I want to set a width and height for these items. So the width of these list items is going to be 120 pixels, and the height is going to be the same height as the main navigation itself, which is 40 pixels. So we're going to set our height here to 40 pixels. And then I want to move on to the anchor tags or the links within these list items. Now, when we click on these links, I don't want just the text to be clickable. I want the entire list item, the entire button, the entire background behind that text to be clickable as well. So in order to make that happen, we have to do a couple things, because with an anchor tag, you're dealing with an inline element. And with an inline element, you can't set the width and height of it explicitly. So in order to change that behavior, we need to do either one of two things. We either need to change it from an inline element to a block level element or a inline block element, or we can just set the position to absolute and do it that way. And that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to set the position. Actually, we need to create a rule first. So we're going to point to .nav-list greater than li greater than a. So we're pointing to the anchor tags that are direct descendants of or direct children of the list items within the main nav list. So we're making sure that we're just pointing to the anchor tags on the main list items, not the submenu or drop down lists. So that's why we're using the greater than there. So for these particular anchor tags, again, we're going to set our position to absolute. Now if we do that, it's going to move our anchor tags to the top left corner of the screen. And if we want to avoid that, then we need to give the parent of these anchor tags, which are going to be these list items, we need to give that parent list item a position of relative. So we'll come back up here to this list item rule and give these a position of relative so that these anchor tags here don't jump up to the top left corner of our browser. Instead, it will be absolutely positioned within these list items. So in order for this to work, for our anchor tags here, we also need to give them a width and height. So we're going to give them the same width and height that we've used before, width of 120, height of 40 pixels. And then I want the text in these links to be centered. So we're going to set text align to center. And let's take a look at what we've got so far. Let's go ahead and save that, jump back into our browser and refresh our page. And as you can see, we're a little bit closer. Our items here are aligned side by side. We still have a little bit of an issue that we need to fix, but so far so good. So let's jump back into our code and we're going to add some top padding to these anchor tags. As you can see, we can click you'll see our mouse cursor here. We've got that pointer cursor around the surrounding area, which means that we can click not just on the text, but on the surrounding area. And we can do that because we gave our anchor tags a position of absolute and set the width and height for them. So let's add some padding to the top of these list items. So padding hyphen top equals 12 pixels. Now remember, by default, if you add padding to an item, it's going to increase the size of that item unless we set the box sizing property to border hyphen box. That way, instead of adding 12 pixels to the height of this item, it will include those 12 pixels within this height that we've specified right here. So let's save that, refresh our page. And that looks a lot better now that we have that top padding in there. Also want to get rid of the underline for those text items. So we're going to set, let's come up here to the very top of this anchor tag rule. And let's first of all set the color of our text to a light gray of $DDD. And then we'll set text decoration here to none to get rid of that underline. And that should take care of it. So let's save that again, refresh our page. And there we go. Now our text on the main menu items anyways looks a lot better. So we'll jump back into our code and we'll continue. So we want to create a hover effect first of all for these list items. So let's point to .nav-list greater than li greater than a:hover. So this is going to be for the hover effect. When we hover over those list items, we want to give it a lighter background color. So we're going to change the background color to £555 whenever we hover over them. So let's save that, refresh our page, and now we can see that hover effect taking place, and that looks nice. So now let's take care of our drop down list item here. We want to position it where we want it to be once it opens up. So let's jump back into our code. Right now we can see that it's aligned up here to the top of the browser. We want to nudge it down so that it's below the services button and then give it a background color and all that good stuff. So we'll jump back into our code. And we've still got quite a bit of CSS code to apply to our drop down. So let's go ahead and move on to the next video where we're going to tackle the styles again for that drop down menu. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you then.